Alright, so this is Robert here again, and I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about the last couple days, and it's the American mindset. And what does it mean to have the American mindset? Because I'm watching a lot of how just the right and left political divide in America is greater than it has ever been, at very least in my lifetime, so obviously since the mid-'80s. But probably even quite a while before that, to where just the political divide right now is ridiculous, and there doesn't even seem to be certain core values that united us like there once was in this country. And things aren't gonna look pretty here in the future if we can't find some common ground. And so I came up with a few things. This is obviously a very selective list that I came up with. It's not complete in its totality or anything like that, but I figure it's something at least to get you thinking, to where it's, if we can't even agree on a few of these universal mindset ideas of what makes us Americans, there's no way we're going to be able to bridge the divide of what is going on right now to where we see the left is going so far socialist now, to where, I mean, 20 years ago, if you would have said that the left were socialists and all that, you're laughed off the stage, mocked, ridiculed, because, well, it almost wasn't true, even though technically, the people on top, this is what their plan was, to push the country into a socialist state. Because if America truly stayed a truly free enterprise, a free experiment to where the citizens were allowed to be free and uninhibited in their actions, and the elite would lose a lot of power, we'll put it that way. So they can't have that, so they need a socialist state so they can control the people. So obviously that's what they've been doing for a while, but we've been getting such a big divide between the two. I wanted to try to see at the very least if we can come up with some universals to where we can say, alright, we have our differences, but if we can at least agree on this, we can mend a lot of wounds, perhaps. Probably not, because I'm probably going to piss some people off with this, and I'm fine with that, because the people I piss off, well, you're un-American. I'm going to say it. And especially like that Ocasio-Cortez, you're un-American. Preaching that socialism here in this country, socialism is not an American principle. That is tantamount to treason. I won't call it that, because you're 100% free to have your own beliefs and all that, and she did get elected legitimately and all that because, well, the person she ran against was a freaking moron, and I think all she needed was like 3,000 or 4,000 votes and she won. Or it was something small like that. But socialist ideas in America are un-American, and if you truly are a believer of them, you're un-American. So you can live in America and have un-American ideas. Yeah, and you can also live abroad and have the American mindset and all that, and I wish those people would come to this country more and more. But obviously they would do it the legal route, so it would take time, because they can't just hop the border and come over here, because I would be even against that, even if they had a certain mindset. But let's go over some of these universals. Which one do I want to start with? Personal responsibility. We'll start with that one. Obviously, it's I'm sick of this victim culture to where everyone says the reason that they haven't had any kind of successes in life or anything's not going good for them is because, oh, the system is, this patriarchal system's against them, or it's because of these homophobes, or these sexists, or these misogynists, or these xenophobes, or, whatever adjectives you can come up with. You need to realize that really, if you're living in America right now, I won't count any other countries in on this, because we do have it better than most countries, pretty much all countries. If you're living in America and you do not accept the fact that it is your fault that you are not happy with your life, period. It is no one else's fault that you are not happy. It is your own. If you do not accept that, you've got a lot of other issues you're going to need to work out before you can go much further down this list. Another thing that I think is a universal is gun rights, because I believe that is the ultimate equalizer between everybody. Is the ultimate equalizer between individual versus individual, because it'd be like, so it can help. It's the ultimate feminist tool to where if you want true equality and you want to go running at night because that's when, it's cooler and you want to run around then, I can understand, especially down in Arizona. Well, run around with a little 9mm and you're in a little fanny pack or something you can strap to you on your side right there. And that will do you far better than anything else you could carry with you, including mace, including, a billy club or anything like that. Because let's say a 6'2", 220-pound guy comes up against you, that billy club, if you don't hit him just right in the right exact spot, especially if he has adrenaline going, they ain't going to do shit to him. Pepper spray won't stop most people that are in a fit of rage that are wanting to do something. It might slow them down a little bit, but that's it. A gun will drop you. A gun will give that toothpick of a girl more than a fighting chance to not only just get away, but get away unscathed. And I am completely for that. 100% for that. And it also, on the big scale too, obviously, it prevents when a government is getting too large and it is demanding to take all your rights and all that stuff. Worst case scenario, you can use those guns to stop a tyrannical government so you don't become an enslaved population, and so we don't repeat history like they've done so many times before, whether it be Venezuela, China, Germany, Russia, Saudi Arabia. I mean, just pick a country. I mean, any country that's disarmed themselves that has become effectively a despot. Name me one country that is not armed to where the citizens effectively have no form of protection for themselves and the government has all the weapons, and that those people are living in a truly, I don't even want to say a representative democracy type thing, because that's one of the next points I want to get to, but just living in a truly, non-tyrannical government. It doesn't exist. I'll help you out. And obviously then, going on to that, I guess the next one then is representative democracy, which is what this our American experiment was. We are not a we are not a democracy, which everyone loves to say. No, we are a republic, which is a representative democracy. We are a limited democracy to where the government is only allowed to have control and vote and have power on very few things. If you read the Constitution, even though our government has gotten obviously way out of hand, but they are only supposed to have control of very few things, and that is all they could vote on, and that is it. And the only kind of amendments that I could think that I would personally make to the original Constitution, which I think we should get back to, obviously with the abolition of slavery and all that stuff, is I would add that we needed an Air Force, so I'm fine with a Navy and an Air Force, but I do not agree with a standing army, because I believe the armed citizens is enough to deter any country from invading us, especially with our geographical landscape where we are. We got oceans protecting us, and even if they try to come in, we've got freaking mountains basically on both sides also protecting us. Because, we'll let California go. That's alright. No one cares about them. They don't even care about themselves. I mean, they shit in the streets. Don't even get into California. So yeah, we're a representative democracy. You need to believe in a very limited government, one that in the perfect world, if it was enacted out, you wouldn't even think about your federal government at all. It wouldn't cross your mind for the majority of your life, except for maybe when a few federal elections come along here and there. And that's not just because, because I want to ignore it, so make the ignorance is bliss. It's no, because it doesn't have any power to actually do anything in your life. That is the type of government I want. One that is that weak. That weak within its own private citizens' lives, but is strong and effective. You read it, well, obviously, we protect our borders, and we protect our oceans and our ports and all that. We protect our skies. And obviously one of the big things within that, which kind of ties into the next one, is believing in free market capitalism. And you can't have that with the central bank like we have with the Federal Reserve. So obviously that needs to be eliminated, and our dollar needs to go back to the gold standard and believe in free market capitalism. And if you believe in free market capitalism, your government would never, ever utter these words. This is how you know that for a long time we have not been in a free market capitalism system. Too big to fail. You will never hear that in a free market system, because any business can fail in a free market system. If you have horrible business practice, you get corrupt, and it exposes you and all that stuff, you deserve to crumble and collapse. And within the free market system, I believe I talked about this in a video prior, but let's say like an Enron collapses and all that stuff in a true free market system because the government wouldn't prop it up and all that like they did, even though it still collapsed. Yeah, a lot of people would lose their job. That'd be terrible and all that stuff. But there's other businesses within those sectors that would then pick up the legal and legit business that Enron was taking over, and obviously needing help with that, they're going to hire employees. You pull in people like that. So it's a free market capitalist system self-corrects itself. So it's not to say it's perfect and you'll never have crashes and all that stuff. No, there will be times where, you know, it could run away with itself, but it will correct itself. It won't allow things to get out of hand, especially if you don't allow the government to meddle with anything. You don't allow anyone to become a monopoly. Let's see, what else do I add? Personal responsibility, private property. I think I talked about that. I don't think so. See, this is like the second time I've shot this video. I messed up the first one. I don't know if I brought this one up yet, so I'll talk about it again real quick anyways. Private property. And that goes, I'm going to talk micro and macro on that idea too. So obviously the micro is, I believe in the private property, you should be able to own your own property. You should be able to have effectively your own castle. And anything that goes on it is yours. And the government cannot take it just because even if it comes and goes, we got the most benevolent cause, you know, we are going to help so many people by taking your stuff and giving it to these people over here. It is going to be so great how we're going to help it. It's tough. Private property, it's mine. If I don't want to give it away, get the hell out of here. The only way obviously it can be taken is through legal due process. And one thing that needs to be fixed on that right now is I think we need to get rid of civil asset forfeiture. That is right now, I wouldn't even call it legalized theft, but it's theft that our authority forces will use to take, cash, take houses, take property. Civil asset forfeiture is horrible. Look into it. That is a whole other video in and of itself. Civil asset forfeiture. It is horrible. It needs to be abolished. And freedom of expression, I think, is the last universal that you have, obviously. So it's like the First Amendment. In freedom of expression, I'm not only saying, obviously, that you are free to say whatever you want, not just the nice, fluffy, frilly stuff, or even some of the controversial stuff, getting away with that. In freedom of expression, I am 100% fine. 100% fine, I will say it again, with hate speech. One, because hate speech doesn't exist. Hate speech ain't real, first of all. People can say hateful things, but hate speech isn't real. So there's no way you can outlaw hate speech because no one can define it, first of all. The only time I would say speech crosses the line to where it can be policed, per se, is, in essence, the call to violence, a call to action to harm or something in that context. And I've even kind of been 50-50 waffling on the one to where, shouting, fire in a crowded theater. Not that I'm saying it's smart to do or anything like that. But, obviously you can't call upon people to go kill anybody or to go assault people. I can't do what Maxine Waters does, and all that. Especially being a conservative that I am. I don't have the protection of being a liberal. But I can't say, if you don't like someone's ideas, thoughts, beliefs, behavior, or whatever, go and surround them in public, get a mob, surround them, shout them down, and tell them they are not welcome here anymore. That is not how you handle yourself. That is ridiculous. And Maxine Waters is one of the stupidest, most corrupt politicians in our government, and she needs to be out right now. And I think it's, who's the one that's running against her? I believe it's a guy named Navarro out there in California. And I've heard him on a couple interviews and all that stuff, and I like a handful of his ideas, and I hope that guy ends up winning. That would be great to get Maxine Waters out of Congress. That would be just brilliant. Okay, so those are some of the universals And then some of the other things that are just kind of like that get under my skins that make me just, that kind of just show how that person either has a disdain for this country, whether it be because it has a checkered history, but name me one country that has the utopian past, that has never done anything wrong, that gave people all of their rights without having some struggles or having to go through some shit. Doesn't exist, okay? And one of the big things, obviously, for me is the people who hyphenate the American status of them. And what I mean by that is, I'm African American, I'm Asian American, I'm European American, I'm, whatever American, I'm Native American, and all that stuff. What you're doing right then and there is showing that you have allegiance to something before America and all that, because like saying if I am African American, you are saying that because you are African first and then you adhere to America. And the reason why I especially disagree with a lot of these is because a lot of the people who love to use these hyphenated things is they're not even from Africa. They weren't born in Asia. They weren't born in these European countries they talk about or all that. Now, a handful of them are, and those are the only people that would tip my cap towards, all right, you can call yourself that. But even then, it just shows that you're not buying into our system, into our experiment. And if you don't buy into it and you come over here and you half-ass it, how can you blame it for screwing up? You need to come here and go all out. You need to be an American when you come here. And being American, obviously, is adhering to our Constitution, which is essentially kind of the universal rights that I talked about right there. And don't identify yourself as, oh, I'm African American, especially if you ain't never been to Africa. You ain't no African American. You're just American. That's it. You're American. You're born in Detroit, you're born in Chicago, you're born in Houston, you're born in San Diego, you're born in New York, Florida, Montana, who cares? But you are not African American, you're not Asian American, you're just American. Be proud of it. Because if you were born in said Africa or Asia or said European country, you wouldn't have it as good as you have it here. Proof be told, everybody wants to come here, and even when they get here and they bitch about how shitty this place is, they won't leave. That's how good this place is. The people that fucking hate it won't even leave. That's how good this country is. So don't hyphenate yourself. You're an American, and I can understand the dual citizenship stuff too, even though for me that's still kind of half-assing it, to where I would never be a dual citizen somewhere else. I was privileged to be born here in America, and I wouldn't mind traveling to other places, but I would never consider myself like how would an American then call themselves? What would be a parable? Like if I go down to Africa, South Africa, and want to live there for a bit, if I want to get genocided, I'll go down to South Africa, because that's what they're doing to the white people down there. I wouldn't call myself, American African down there. Or if I wanted to go live in China for a while, I wouldn't call myself American Asian over there, would I? No, I would just be an American. Or I would adopt and adapt into that culture and consider myself an Asian within that culture. Or even, I wouldn't even do that, because that's getting into then the identity politics. Well, and that's how you just identify. No, I'm an American. I was born here to American parents. I'm American. That's all I can be. I can't be anything else. So obviously within that is drop the identity politics bullshit. Alright? It's fine to have like groups that you identify with, but to use those as political weapons or as political tools and all that is, what is it? Idiocracy on its largest level. I mean, go watch that movie. That is what you guys are trying to get this to if you want to play the identity politics. Idiocracy will be the future. I gotta wrap this up. I've touched most of this stuff, but I might talk about this some more. And also, and the big one, okay, that's the one I really want to talk about, is to truly be an American, I think, is one mindset that would require a shift in most people, a conscious shift. And it's, we need to stop we need to, how do I want to phrase this? We need to start following politics again like we follow our soap operas, or you follow your sports, or you follow your reality TV, to where you know everyone's name, where they're living, where they're from, what they're doing, what their intentions are, to where you, like, for the most part, I could tell you all about most NFL teams, I could tell you about most baseball teams, I could tell you about the rule, I could tell you about how the games are played, the coaching techniques, styles, all that shit. And we need to be able to shift that type of knowledge, stop caring that much about that meaningless shit that will have no effect in my life. Like, it doesn't matter how much I watch the Braves baseball game, I will get nothing out of that, even if they end up winning the World Series, which is the greatest achievement they can get, and it's what will happen with me? Nothing. Or I can watch the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl. What will happen for me? Nothing. But I can get behind certain politicians, and I can, fight for them and put the same effort and passion into that. And my life can get better and or worse depending on how that game goes. And we need to not just view it as a life and death struggle too. That's kind of the slight shift within it and viewing the politics. We need to start looking at it like we view the sports, where it's just a game. To where it's an important game, no doubt, but it's a game. We need to have fun with it. Because if we don't have fun within the politics, you will lose. There's too much to get swamped in, like especially looking into football and baseball and all that, and their cybermetrics and all that stuff. You can drown in all the statistics, all the bills, all the legislation, all the state houses, all this stuff, all the different politicians from, the city council to the state council to the federal government. I mean, there's so much you can get buried into. But we need to become that impassioned about that stuff too, and not just at the few times during elections, like every 2 years, we kind of allow ourselves to get riled up about election, and then we die and we don't care anymore. It needs to be a continued passion and fervor. And that was one thing that a lot of foreigners noticed about America, especially back in, like, what was that one guy specifically? I don't remember what year it was, but I want to say it was like in the 20s and 30s-ish, 40s, somewhere right around there. This guy came over from Europe, or France, I think it was, and he was checking out America and all that stuff. And he said there's one thing that he was really impressed with in the end was how passionate Americans were about politics, and that how you couldn't get anything past them, to where you could not lie to them about what the feds were doing or anything, or even their state houses doing, because they were that in tune with what was going on. They were that sharp. They were that informed, to where there was that much information out there, even at that time, to where they knew what was going on, to where, like, the communism couldn't creep up like it is now in our country because of how passionate they were back then. And we need to get that back. That needs to be one of America's pillars again, is our passion for politics, because that is where we'll gain our freedom again, is where we limit the government, give the rights back to the states, and let the states decide how they want to run themselves, and you will see America like you've never seen before. It will be so beautiful, it will be so rich, it will be so luxurious. And once we're building ourselves up, we get all this passion into America and all that again, we could start helping other countries again. Because until you fix your house, you cannot help your neighbor out. So fix our damn house first. Let's get this going again, and then we can start helping out our neighbors again. And that's where we'll be able to turn shit around. So I just wanted to kind of, I guess, establish a mindset. I might do a couple more of these, and obviously I'm trying to get a little bit more consistent in the videos, but I have my own issues, I'll put it that way. But we need an American mindset back, and that's what I'm talking about. So if you don't If you don't believe in some of these universals, if you don't believe in private property and a free market capitalist system and gun rights, if you don't believe in freedom of expression, if you don't believe in a limited government, and that it all comes down to personal responsibility. That if you're going to be successful, it's on you. If you can't even agree on that, we're not going to agree on anything. And I think those are some of the easiest things to agree on right there. Some of the easiest. So, yeah. We need the American mindset back. We need our passion back. We've been dulled into complacency. We've been fed shit food, shit drinks, given shit media to turn our minds into shit. And we need to break away from that. You need to get yourselves your vitamins. You need to supplement with this stuff. This is the only way you're going to get yourself better. And especially that's lifesaver stuff right there. I love that stuff. Fix your mind, fix your body, and we can fix this country. So this is Robert reporting for Republic Rising. And, yeah, you guys have yourselves a good one. Peace.